Good evening, race fans. Welcome to NASCAR Inside the Race. I'm your host, at least for tonight, Steve Letarte. Alex Weaver is off this evening. I have my man Kyle Petty joining me, KP. And just like that, the 2026 NASCAR season is underway. The Clash is behind us. Ryan Preece gets his first win in the Cup Series, albeit not a points win. He wins the Clash, 35-year-old in his fifth start in the Clash. A lot to break down. Man, we had it all on a Wednesday, mind you, a Wednesday.
Yeah, it's crazy. Listen, it's that through rain or sleet or snow or hail, NASCAR delivers, man. We got it at Bowman Gray, and we had every bit of it again tonight. We've gone through it to get here, but you had everything tonight again.
So I think we have a lot to discuss. We're going to break this race down a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about the winner. KP is going to bring us his hot take off the race. I'm going to go on the pit box, talk about some of the details we had. We have a lot to break down there with tires and fuel. We're going to talk about some weekend winners as well. But let's just jump right in, right? So it was a long night. There were parts of it that frustrated me. I think it frustrated the fans because it took longer than hopefully everybody wanted. But I'll be honest, the tears from Ryan Preece post-race talking about didn't think he had a right bit. You know, it was grounding for me. Do we have the sound, John? Let's play his last lap in his interview if we have it.
Off turn 4 at the Madhouse. The Cookout Clash goes to Ryan Preece for Roush, Fenway, Keselowski, and Ford. How about that?
2 years ago, I didn't think I was going to have a job. I thought I was going back to Connecticut. And I'm just super emotional.
So you know what? I needed that, KP, because I was cranky. I was mad about the weather. I was mad about the cluster. I was mad about the fuel. I was mad about the tires. I acted like a 30-year-old veteran who didn't appreciate that the sport was back underway. And then here comes Ryan Preece, who gets out and shows us true emotion, true tears about what this race meant to him. You know, and shame on me for not maybe tipping my hat to the performance. You and I talked about it, right? The guys that win, this is a big week. The guys that lost say it doesn't matter, but it mattered to Ryan Preece.
Yeah, and listen, we're too close to it. And I think that's the thing. When being around the sport my whole life, you being around the sport your whole life, you're so close to it, you get nitpicky with it. You get jaded to it. And then you see the interview and you think, oh my gosh, it's a life-changing moment for him. He has worked his whole life to get to the Cup level, to win something, to win a race, to get to that point. And he climbs out. And yes, it was not the prettiest night in the world to watch if you're a race fan in a lot of ways. The first half of the race, I was mesmerized by. I really did. I thought those guys did a great job for the first 102 laps. Once we went to rain tires and all that, that's a whole nother issue. But you see what the race means to them and to RFK. I mean, that's a big moment for that team too. So, yeah, I think it's easy for us sometimes to look at things and see it and be jaded to it. But you see it through somebody else's eyes and it changes your perspective.
Let's tear the Band-Aid off. Let's talk about what the fans are going to be talking about. Ryan Preece is one of them. The rain came at lap 102. In your career, my career, that would have been it. That would have been the end. Yeah. There was no wet weather tires. There was no anything else. We might have dried the track. Maybe we could have blown the track off and went back dry racing with about an hour delay. What would have been better? You got three options. Checkered flag at halfway. You can do what we did tonight with the wet weather tires, or we can make the fans sit around for an hour, hour and a half in 25 or 30-degree wind chills and go back dry weather tires, which is what we probably would have done 15 years ago. What's your vote, KP?
So I think I can look at I look at it this way. So for me, I say, I'm out at 102, baby. Present the trophy, kiss the beauty queen, and head to the house. That's the end of the conversation. But as you can take this thing and rip it apart a million different ways, because we did, or let me say this, the sport did what it does best. It put on a race in dry weather under regular conditions, what they do week in and week out. That's what we saw for the first 102 laps. What we saw for the next 98 laps or 180 laps, because half of them were cautioned that they didn't count, if you look at that. But what we saw was NASCAR running on these wet weather tires on a short track. And I think a lot of drivers learned from this. I think we heard Cliff We heard a couple of crew chiefs. Let me just go ahead and say that. We heard a couple of crew chiefs say, we only have a couple of data points to look at to say, how would we adjust our car? Could we do? So I think there's people in the teams that are looking at it saying, man, that's good. I'm glad we run this second part of the race because now we've got more data to look at. More if we have to go to a Wilkesboro, if we have to go to a Martinsville, if we have to go to another racetrack and do this again, we understand it a little bit better. So I see their point. From my perspective, again, being jaded to it, I like the first 102 laps. From the fans sitting in the stands, for poor Regan Smith, I wanted him to get in out of the weather, man. I hurt for him every time. But I can see a lot of different things. But yeah, pull the Band-Aids off. I would have rather stopped at 102.
So if this was a regular season race, I'd rather see the checkered at 102.
Yes.
I didn't need the other 100, but if I put my, what is this weekend about hat on, it's for two big chunks. It's one, it's an entertainment spot for the fan. Not that the fans care, but when you look at TV ratings, the Winston-Salem area is like the #1 market every single week for NASCAR. We're at Bowman Gray probably for that reason. We're there to put on a show, so we put on the show. The other thing is, to your point, we learn a lot. So I don't think it was smooth. I think there were some things that were really busted up about it. So hopefully we'll have it figured out where if we do need to do it in a points paying event to either get to halfway or to kind of keep the ball moving, I think we'll learn something about it. I will say, as much as I loved the move to go back to Bowman Gray, I think it was last year, and I like the throwback, I also appreciate change. Like I don't, this is going to be, here, you got hot takes coming up. I'll give you my hot take first. I don't need another Bowman Gray race. I don't know. I just don't. It was awesome. Like, I'm glad we went there. It was so cool. But man, I'd like to see a new Smyrna. I'd like to see, I think there's other tracks we could go to. And I think here, it doesn't have a pit road. Like, I could point out all the reasons why it's not a Cup qualified track. That is not a reason to not go, but that is enough reason to not go consistently, if that makes sense. I like to make exceptions to go to different places, but exceptions can't become the rule for me. That's my cup of tea, because when we get too far away from our fastball, man, you're just asking for a lot of kind of mishaps and misinformation and bad communication and a complicated race to follow.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times, as we follow the sport, and we've been we've been a part of it forever. You go in, and the first year is such a great success. You come back the next year, and the next year is not as good as the first year, and the third year, I tell people this: I like to bowl one game. By the time I get to the third game, my arm's about to fall off. You know what I mean? It's a great time for the first time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And sometimes I kind of look at it. I wish we could lay out, and I wish NASCAR would lay out over the next 6 seasons. We're going to run the Clash at these 6 racetracks and make huge events out of them. Let these cities plan to say, we get the
give the fan hey, this is where we're going. Give them
we get
the
Clash in 2027. Hey, we got it in 2028. You know what I mean?
Well, you hear that like other sports, right? Like Olympics are announced decades out. Golf majors are announced. So to your point, this wouldn't be crazy. There are other sports that announce these things years down the road.
Yes, exactly. Because this is not a points race. This is for the fans. This is an event. This is something special. So if we want to keep it special and make it special, let's elevate it to another level and move it around. If we want to just have the Clash, I saw Dale Jr.'s tweet the other day. I'm all for moving it back to Daytona. And because at Daytona, when I was growing up and when the Clash first came around, man, you watched that Clash that first weekend and you said, Cale Yarborough is going to be a threat for the 500. Earnhardt's going to be a threat for the 500 because they run so good in the Clash. It was something that they learned that they could take to the track the next week. This is not about learning a lot of times. It's not about all that. It's about the fans. It's about putting on a show. It's about promoting NASCAR as a premier sport and taking it to different markets. That's why we were in LA. That's why we were in different places. So I think if they laid it out like that, I could get really behind that and be pretty excited about it.
Well, we have some segments we're going to run through this year. I'm going to do this one out of order, which is probably going to just blow our producer's mind, and that's his fault for letting me host and not having Alex in here to keep us. But let's just go on the pit box, John. Can we go on the pit box next? Oh, look, he's ready. Here we go. Every week we're going to do it. We're going to go on the pit box. This is kind of my segment where I'm going to talk about some stuff. What's going to be lost in this race with all of the craziness is this is kind of the unveiling of the higher horsepower. And I know Bowman Gray is probably not the perfect track for it because you're not at wide open throttle barely at all if you get to wide open throttle down the straightaway. But I will say, if we unfold the onion and we throw away all the BS, the last chance qualifier, we saw rear tires going away or tire management, and we saw that in the dry in the first 100. And I believe that is for sure some of Goodyear's work, but I think the high horsepower has something to do with that. So do I think it's the magical ingredient in the soup? I don't. But do I think it's adding a little something better? I do. Let's remind everybody it's 750 horsepower, which is basically about 80 more than what we saw last year. At certain tracks, you're going to see some higher top speed, maybe a little bit more RPM, which is going to cause a little bit more brake pressure. The idea is we want the speed graph to have some, at short tracks, some higher top speeds where you have to slow down more for the middle of the corner. It promotes tire wear, it promotes passing, it promotes a lot of handling issues. So from on the pit box, I don't think the horsepower was just a guaranteed hammer the gavel must win, but it actually, I think, made a difference. And I wouldn't have said that if you asked me a week ago. I would have said we won't even see a difference at Bowman Gray. I thought it did make a difference.
Yeah, listen, I thought it made a difference. And I thought it made a difference and if we watch that first segment, if you look at Larson, if you look at Byron, if you look at Chase Briscoe, those guys raced with each other. The 54 car of Gibbs, he never raced with anybody.
Mm-hmm.
When it come time to go, hammer down, he still had tires under him because he didn't have to race with each other because those guys had worn their stuff off because of the added horsepower, because they had to get up under somebody. They wanted to spurt. They wanted to get up off the corner a little bit better. So yeah, I think it definitely made a difference. And if it makes a difference at Bowman Gray, it's going to make a huge difference at Martinsville. It's going to make a huge difference at some of the other places that are flat like that. Think about Richmond, man, where you used to could spin the tires all the way past the start finish line coming about a turn 4. And it'll make a difference at places like that on who runs up front and who goes to the back.
In the rain, they would have loved to have about 600 horsepower if we could have pulled 2 plug wires. Remember the old delayed secondaries at Sonoma? Like that's what it reminds me of. Is like you're gonna have to really control this power with some of the engine tune-up.
Yeah, in the old days when we used to run Wilkesboro, man, and you run 2 ignition boxes, we just knock about 6 degrees of timing out in the second box. And once you started spinning tires, just switch your ignition box over because you couldn't use. If you had 50 horsepower, you couldn't use all 50 horsepower getting up off the corner at Wilkesboro.
So I've heard this, and I don't know this to be true. We never did it with the 24 car, which is the only car I crew chief with a carburetor. But back with the old 4-bell carburetors, I heard like super delayed secondaries, right? Like especially like at Sonoma, you get like 80% throttle, and the secondaries hadn't even opened yet. So on old tires, a good driver would actually just like pedal down. I'm sure back in your day, you probably had a lot of those things where you would mess with the linkage so you could actually try to help the driver save the tire. Yeah,
because all you're trying to do is create an antiquated traction control. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
that's
all you're working on because you can't count on every driver to modulate that and be able to come up off of the corner because a lot of drivers are stab and steer, man, wide open. And if you can take that out of his hands, you're better off.
Stab and steer. All right. That's our transition. KP's hot take. It's not gone. It's going to be on NASCAR Inside the Race every race day. When we come on for the post-race show, we're going to get Kyle Petty's hot take. You look good in the hat. I like the new logo.
I love that,
all right,
man.
KP.
All right, so here's my hot take. And I'm going to say this is the 2026 season is here thanks to NASCAR and thanks to the city of Winston-Salem and everybody who shoveled a shovel of snow, who moved snow out of the way, who gutted it out, who stuck it out. That's what this is all about. It's about the fans, and it's about bringing the sport to the fans. So many times it'll rain and NASCAR sets and they wait and then they call it and the fans go crazy. It's like, we could have got it in. There's a window out there somewhere. Listen, NASCAR understands that too. They know that on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon or a Saturday night or Sunday night, whatever it may be, when the window closes, they know we've got to move on to the next race. Here, they had that opportunity not to have to move on to the next race, and they stayed the course. And I give a tip of the hat to everybody at NASCAR, to Ben, to Steve O'Donnell, to everybody who made that call to stick it out and to stay Monday, to stay Tuesday, and to put it on a Wednesday night. And no matter what we saw race-wise, we saw a cup race with cup stars, and we saw the start of the 2026 season. So kudos to Winston-Salem, the state of North Carolina, and to NASCAR in particular for getting this done.
A positive Kyle Petty hot take to start the year. I almost fell out of my chair.
That'll be the last
you
one.
mentioned shoveling. Couple drivers. I saw Todd Gillen. I saw Ricky Stenhouse clearing the stands. And I did a little recon. I said, look, did I like pause for the picture? But I hear they were there. They put the work in. This wasn't just a photo op. They moved some snow. So A+ to Ricky and Todd. And to your point, to everyone. Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat on TV. It wasn't a packed house. It's cold. It's 30 degrees. I actually thought the crowd was better than I thought for something that got delayed to Wednesday. It could have really been bad. So hey, man, hands off to the fans who came out.
Yeah, let's be honest, Steve. These are not Green Bay and Patriots fans. Okay, these are stock car fans.
I wasn't going.
30 degrees, Green Bay and Patriots fans would have been out in t-shirts. Man, they would have been there. That place would have been packed. You know that, man. So
yeah,
I think when you look at it, good crowd for a Wednesday night. Hopefully everybody seemed to have a good time, and that's all that really matters. We got a race in.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we got a race in. That was good. Man, there's a lot. I'm trying to figure out. This is a real question. Did we learn anything? Anything?
No.
Like, are you any smarter right now for the season than you were before we went in? I have a couple names I'm going to bring out, but I want to see if there's anything that jump off the page to you.
No, I'm not. Listen, I say this, and you know this as working with the great drivers you worked with, and teams have a way of putting things in a box and putting them in it. And if you had a good night, you use this as momentum. You're like, man, we run good. We run good at Bowman Gray. And you use it as a stepping. If you run bad, you're like, Bowman Gray doesn't mean anything. It's not even a points race. And you put it in another box and you never go back to it. And that's how you adjust, and that's why I go back to the Clash being at Daytona. When you run bad in the Clash at Daytona, you said, oh my God, I'm in trouble for the 500 because it's only 7 days away. You know what I mean? I'm in trouble, but they take nothing from this. And I took nothing from this. As a team, I would not take anything. I would leave it all in Winston-Salem and head to Daytona.
All right, I'm gonna digress for a minute. Everyone loves a story. How many times? All right, so for the newer fans, we used to go to Daytona. We would unload the Thursday a week before the duels. You would inspect your shootout car on Thursday, your 500 car on Friday. You would practice the shootout car. Make sure I give them this right. Then you would qualifying Saturday, shootout Sunday, or maybe I have that flipped. It might have been I think it was shootout Saturday. Qualify Sunday. Yep. So then you would run the shootout. You'd practice your 500 car on Saturday. You'd run the shootout on Saturday during the day. Sometimes we did it at night, but during the day was the original. Yep. Then we would qualify. Then you'd practice Monday and Tuesday. How many times did you get to about Wednesday? And now the track's taking rubber. Now it's a little bit warmer. And you come in, you're like, we've just taken too much downforce out of this 500 car. That shootout car drove way better. It drove way better than this 500 car. There wasn't a crew chief in the garage that wasn't walking around mumbling, complaining about their driver, be like, it's rubber on the racetrack, it's this, it's not the car. Like that. Those are the days I remember. 14, whatever it was, 12 days at Daytona. Gosh, those were fun.
Yeah, because you had so much time at the racetrack, on the racetrack, with two separate cars.
Practice every day.
You practiced every day, and you had so much time that your mind began to play tricks on you. And you begin to believe things and see things that really weren't there, but you laid awake at night in the hotels and you thought about it, and you come up with 1,000 different plans on how I can wall this thing and take my backup, my Clash car here. And I'm going to be better in it because it's going to be, there's so many, but yeah, that was always a thing, man. And then, but I go back to the driver thing too. If somebody would come out of the Clash and have a great run, and they're like, yeah, we're going to take this one back to inspection. This is going to be a 500 car now.
Oh yeah. We'll change them.
Everybody did it. And just tons of work.
Let's jump right in it. We got some weekend winners. I have some ideas for some weekend winners. Once again, another segment we're going to do every week. The weekend winners for me, the first one I'm going to have, and I am going to say Team Trackhouse.
Yeah.
So if I said Trackhouse right now, everybody would have said, well, yeah, Ross Chastain was going to be good. But I'm actually looking at the other two. And what I will say is this. I know we expect big things out of Connor Zilic, right? But both Connor Zilic and SVG, I thought had what they needed at the Clash. You and I both talk about Bowman Gray is not going to communicate. It's not going to matter about how it drove or what you did. But for both of those drivers, it's about communication with a new crew chief. If you're Connor Zilic, it's just kind of knocking the rust off at your SVG. Two things. Zilic didn't look like he's new to the Cup Series. He was elbows out, pushing, shoving, being pushed, pushing back, finding that line of, hey, I'm going to respect you the first couple times, but then I'm going to hit you as much as I need. I thought he blended in, and that's a compliment, blending in, right? He didn't stand out in the negative. And when the track got wet and everything became abnormal, SVG proved that he's not a road course expert. He has amazing car control, right? And on a dry, high-speed oval, he is still going to be behind Denny Hamlin and all those guys. But think about, we just talked about how much time we would get on track just at Daytona.
Yeah.
Think of the reduced number of laps and testing that SVG is trying to figure this out with. And I'm going to tell you, my weekend winner is Trackhouse. Chastain was fast in practice, but I'm really focusing on the other two because I think that's going to be their year is going to be measured off those two. I think we all know Chastain's going to be fine.
Yeah.
I'm going to give 2 thumbs up to both Zilic and SVG. Probably didn't finish like they wanted. I know they got actually together in a wreck, but a lot of highlights for me.
Yeah. And listen, that great call there. I got to laughing about halfway through the race because I thought, what's Connor Zilic thinking? You know what I mean? My first time in a Cup car, I run 100 laps in dry weather, and everything's pretty cool. And then it sleets, and then it snows, and then it rains. And here I am out here with these guys. Is this what Cup racing is all about? I mean, first time to the party, and they throw everything at you. So that was pretty cool. And he handled everything they threw at him. And you're exactly right. Blended in. He didn't do anything crazy, didn't step out of line. I'm going to give my winners to, I guess it's Spire still, right?
Yep.
Yeah. To the 77 Hocevar and to Suarez. And I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to say this, and I said it at the time, and I'm going to say it again here. Get used to Hocevar running up front. You other drivers, you can whine about it. You can complain about him. He does this. He does that. He got in my door a little bit, and he moved me out of the way. He's going to be there. He's going to race you, and he's going to beat you at some point in time. So get used to it. And he did it again tonight. All I heard all night long was how Ryan Blaney drove from 16th to the front. What about Hocevar? Did the same. He drove to the front, man. He drove to the front. So I give those guys huge kudos for coming out and putting 2 cars who could run consistently in the top 4 or 5. Yeah, they didn't finish the way they wanted to, just like you say. They didn't end up where they wanted to, but they showed they can race with these guys.
Listen, this is an easy A main to miss.
Yeah.
You get a couple short practices on a track that had snow on it a couple days ago. It's very abnormal, right? You go out there, boom, boom, boom. You got to qualify. You got to make it happen. So to your point, Spire got 2 in. They missed with McDowell, and Trackhouse got 3 in. So I mean, listen, the 48 had to get the points provisional.
That's exactly
their automatic 8 main qualifier.
Great point on the 48 and Bowman is they've got all their cars in the top 3 or 4, and he has to use the provisional. What's up with that? You know what I mean? So I think that season for me, I look at that and I think, okay, they've not started the way they need to start. That's a team maybe if I look at everybody that says, let's go back to the drawing board and we better show up at Daytona a little bit better than this.
Hey, John, let's talk about the fantasy. All year long, me, KP, Alex Weaver, we are going to join. We're going to do 36 for 36. It's the fantasy competition on NASCAR.com. You've seen it in other sports. So basically what you do, you can join our league. Scan the QR code on your screen right now. It's the Inside the Race 36 for 36. So KP, because I know you're not going to read the fine print, so I'm going to give you the rules right here because I know how it's going to work. Every week, you pick a driver. However many points that driver score goes into your bucket. The only caveat, the only asterisk is you can only pick every driver one time. One time. So when you start the Daytona 500, if you feel like, oh, man, William Byron's going to go 3 in a row. He's going to be my guy. You take him and he wrecks. You've burned a William Byron start, and you didn't get very many points. So
Wow.
every week you got to pick a driver, knowing you're going to have to basically use all of them, right? There are 36 chartered cars. Charter's not a dirty word anymore. I'm allowed to say charter. 36 chartered cars. You get to pick one of them, basically one of those drivers. Now you might pick a non-chartered car.
Yeah.
There's a few of those entered, but you only get every driver once, 36 times. You can compete against me, KP, and Weaver. We're going to have some sort of little inside bet between me, you, and Weaver.
Yeah, we need it. Listen, I started driving back in the last century. I'll say that. And I drove for so many. My whole career was spent in a fantasy league, man. I let me go ahead and say that. So I'm looking forward to playing this one. I'll be good. I'll be good.
All right. I like it. And while I'm on the promotion side, let me just remind everybody, this is NASCAR Inside the Race. We're going to come every single race day when the checker flag falls. We're going to let broadcast kind of close up their post-race show, whether it's Fox, our friends at Amazon, our friends at TNT, or our friends at USA Sports/NBC. And when they go off the air, we're going to come on. You're going to see a lot of Alex Weaver, a lot of me, a lot of Kyle Petty, but you, the fans, make the show. So tweet us, send us all your comments, comment on the YouTube page, and let us know what you think about the show. And then during the week, I'm going to come in on Monday to the Letarte Lab. I'm going to break down the race in a little bit more detail, maybe break down some passes. We're going to talk a lot about points and all those things. You know, KP, we didn't have you on the preview show and the big announcement, so I'd like to get your thoughts. This is off topic, but Chase is back. We're going to run 26 races. We're going to reset. It's going to be a staggered start. You know, hey, the guy who's first in points is going to have a lead over second, over third, over fourth, and so on and so forth. Thoughts, right? We didn't go back to a full season. We're away from a one-race championship. You've seen it all. You've done it all. You've raced it all. Where do you stand?
Yeah, listen, I like this. I do like it. I was never a huge fan of the one race winner take all. But that's what we had. And that's what you win in. And this is what I always say. And I say this all the time. My dad won 7 championships, but he won them under 5 different point systems.
And nobody knows that, right? If you ask a fan, they wouldn't know that.
Yeah. But it doesn't. So my point is, it doesn't really make any difference what the point system is. Everybody knows when they roll into Daytona what point system they're racing under. And you've got to race to that point system. You've got to race to the point system that's laid out, and you've got to figure out how to make it work. Listen, we can go back and you can say, well, Jimmy raced to the system and Kurt and yeah. I got you, man. I got you. When Richard Petty and Darrell Waltrip ran for the championship in '79, they got to bring in 2 cars to the racetrack and hiring other people to drive these cars just to take points away to manipulate that part of it. So it's always been a part of racing the system. I like this format. I like where you put the guys. It's a small season. It's almost like a miniature season. They're the guys that deserve to run for it. And at the end of it, you have a champion. We can continue, for all you crazy race fans out there, let me say this, continue to say, well, if we did the points in 2025 the same way we did in 1962, this guy wouldn't be the champion. Somebody else would. I don't care. I don't care who might have been the champion. Put him in my fantasy league, okay? Because that's a fantasy champion. What we've got is a real champion who won the championship under the current point system. So I'm all for this one.
I think it's a great compromise. I really do.
Yeah.
I think 36 weeks is too much of a commitment. I'm a Red Sox fan, and I don't even turn on until late August, right? So, I could say it. I will also tell you, I don't need the extra game in the NFL. Like, I'm starting to get a little football fatigue. I'm glad the Super Bowl's here. I kind of am, right? So I do believe that for the hardcore fan, we have a bit of a longevity. For the little more lighthearted fan, we do have this reset where we can get 10 weeks of focus. I didn't mind the rounds. I was never a big fan of the one race. I think I would have loved the 3-race round. The most important thing to me is that the drivers, the sport, like the league itself and everybody within it feels proud of what we put on the racetrack. I think this is going to be a great format and a good stuff. We got Inside the Race season preview show next week. We're going to get together on Monday and kind of look ahead to the season, break down a little bit of each team, a little bit of the season itself. We are going to talk maybe a little bit more about the points and get a little bit of a preview of the Daytona 500. And then big news, KP, you and Weaves are going to be live from the Daytona 500 right outside of Victory Lane. Maybe they'll let you inside Victory Lane. So a live show post Daytona 500 where hopefully we'll get the Daytona 500 champ. That's right. I don't call it a winner. You win that race, you are the champion of the Daytona 500. Maybe an owner, maybe a crew chief. I'm going to be here back in Charlotte because I'm going to be doing some Monday content. So maybe I can jump in on virtually. We'll see if that works out.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good year, man. I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be fun.
Listen, I am, and I said it when I did the thing at the Hall of Fame the other day. I said it, and I've said it before. I am, of everything that we went through, that the sport went through, everything the sport went through last year, all the turmoil, everything that's happened in the sport, everything that's happened in the off season. When we got to January 1 and it's 2026, I am positive and optimistic at the same time that this is just going to be a great year. I am really, really looking forward to everything, everywhere we're going. We're going to San Diego, going to new places, having new things. The Daytona 500 is just around the corner. And you're right. It's a Daytona 500 champion. It's not a winner. He's the champion. It's the only race we have where we call the guy a champion. And that lasts forever, man. That lasts forever. It's a huge event. It's a huge race. It's a huge moment in this sport to start us off in the right direction. And I'm pumped for this year.
Well, there you have it. The 2026 season is underway. The Clash is behind us. We saw Ryan Preece, for the first time in his Cup Series career, go to victory lane. It wasn't completely crystal clear. There were some black eyes and some hurt feelings. We had some weather, and it got a little bit chunky at times. I will give a tip of the hat to all the drivers. Everyone we heard on the radio said, let's drop the green and get this underway. I thought the enthusiasm was there to get the race underway. It took until Wednesday. It took shoveling the grandstands, rain tires, and somewhere between 1 and 17 hours to run a 200-lap race. But we got it in, and it was Ryan Preece. For more content like this, make sure you subscribe to the NASCAR YouTube channel. We're going to have NASCAR Inside the Race all season long. KP, you're going to be on it. I appreciate you joining me tonight. A lot of fun.
A lot of fun, man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It's going to be great. Great season ahead. Thank you for watching NASCAR Inside the Race.